of where they were attacked, right? The Jews of Germany were more assimilated than any other Jews of Europe, more than any other Jews. As a matter of fact, there was a time where Hitler, he removed citizenships from the Jewish people of Germany. They said that when Hitler removed the German citizenship from Jewish Germans, many of them committed suicide. They committed suicide because they could not fathom living not as a German, right? Again, they were so ingrained in German society, they were so proud to be German, that the very fact that they lost German citizenship, they killed themselves because they're like, I don't have any more identity. What is there to live for if I'm not German? Right? And that is the place where the Holocaust happened from. Again, I'm not blaming them. Who am I to blame them? But I'm just pointing out that if you look at, if you look at their method of preventing anti-Semitism, it obviously didn't work, right? And I'm saying the same thing with Zionism. Zionism, they said, was a mechanism to protect the Jews against anti-Semitism. It didn't work. It didn't work. It is the catalyst for anti-Semitism today. Now, I'm not blaming Israel for that. I think that anti-Semitism is going to exist however, wherever, because it's part of the spiritual nature that God created this world with. When he put the Jews in this world, he made people hate us. That was part of the deal, right? You become Jews.
Especially for not doing our job.
We cut off a little bit of your schlang, and then everybody hates you. So, right? That's the deal. So that, again, from my perspective, it's not Israel's fault, but it's not their fault. It's that they came up and these Zionists came up and they said, we're going to implement a strategy to prevent anti-Semitism. Didn't work, right? It didn't work. I'm sorry, it just didn't, right? And again, it was a nice idea, right? If you would have actually been at that time, you would have thought that this idea is guaranteed, impossible, that it wouldn't work. It didn't work, right? So, right? Move on.
Depressing.
It depends how you see it. If your worldview is that Zionism is the only way to prevent anti-Semitism around the world, then
that's crazy.
Then you would be miserable, because that fact is just a simple lie. It doesn't work, right? If you embrace reality that there is a spiritual idea of anti-Semitism out there that was created together with the nation of Israel, it is beyond logic, right? And as I say, by the way, if we get onto a little bit of these philosophical stuff, right? The Jewish people, we are the proof to this world that God exists and God is in constant control of this reality. We are the proof, right? Now, we can prove it in different ways. Get off your phone. You want to be in the class, you have to be off the phone. So, I don't care if you like what I'm saying, don't like what I'm saying. No phones, right? That's a phony thing, right? No phony stuff. Anyways, what was I saying? I got lost. We go to the Gemara, or should we finish what I'm saying? We're speaking about anti-Semitism and how the Jewish people were put into this world. Our mission is very simple. We prove to this world that God exists. If you need a proof that God exists, look at the nation of Israel. They're one after the next after the next. People are like, oh, you can't prove God exists. Yeah, you could. Why does anti-Semitism exist? Anti-Semitism is in fact a proof that God exists, because there's no natural reason.
And most people would say it's proof God doesn't exist.
No, it's proof that God does exist.
Well, I know, but I'm saying,
because if God didn't exist, then why on earth would there be anti-Semitism? The Jewish people are the most beneficial people to humanity ever since it started, right? Normally, a normal nature would be that if somebody's benefiting
George
you,
Soros isn't. Bernie Sanders isn't.
Again, the Jewish nation as a whole has benefited humanity more than any other group of people ever since the inception of the nation of Israel, right? 90% of the world are following a religion that's based on our teachings, right? And therefore, you look at it and you say, hold on, look how much positive the Jews give to people, and people still hate them. That doesn't make sense. It's not naturally. Naturally, you're inclined to connect, to appreciate those that benefit you. Right? So if somebody is anti-Semitic, they're connecting with a negative spirituality, a demonic spirituality that is a counterpart of God, right? And that is equal. It's equally proof that God exists. The very fact that anti-Semitism is what it is today is proof that God exists. Zeo, right? The fact that you have an atheist who's siding with a crazy, demoralized jihadist who is a theist. Obviously, the jihadist is a theist. Not only is he a theist, but he's anti-women and anti-gay and anti everything that everything that these atheistic woke people are. They're everything the opposite, but yet they need to connect to them to hate Israel.
Yeah.
What's wrong with them?
I know.
It doesn't make sense. It's a proof that God exists in itself. Anti-Semitism is a proof that God exists, and the Jewish people, we have a choice. We can either somehow bring to the forefront to people's minds the brilliance of godliness, and we can show them in a positive light, right? And if they're not willing to accept it in a positive light, they're going to get it from a backhanded way, which is called anti-Semitism. In any way, there's going to be proof in every single human's life. Every single human being is going to have proof in their life that God exists through the nation of Israel. The nation of Israel is what's going to prove them. They can either consider and look at the history and the Bible and the prophets and see the energy directly, or they're going to end up hating us for some completely insane, irrational reason. And then they're going to have to ask themselves, why am I so irrational when I'm meant to be secular? Secular is meant to be rational, right?
Maybe they're being rational. Maybe that when
what rationale is there to be anti-Jews?
Yeah, I mean, Hitler gave a lot of rationale.
No, he didn't.
Yeah, he did.
No,
he said, look, these secular Jews, they're destroying our society. They're pushing.
He said things, but they weren't accurate.
They were accurate, actually. Some of them were accurate, and it's still happening today. Secular Jews in Hollywood pushing homosexuality into society through the media.
But it's not led by a group of homosexual or Jews. There are a lot of Jews involved because Jews by nature, and this is one of the reasons why one of the reasons why Jews are so beneficial and so impactful in history is because Jews hate status quo, and Jews will not put up with the same old garbage. We by nature hate that, so we will fight. Now the question is who recruits us or where we're recruited to. Right? We're recruited very often, a Jew, especially if he's a little bit if he is not connected to the Torah, right? So the demonic forces will pull him in to their agenda.
A secular Jew can do a lot of damage, just like
100%. That's why the demons would rather grab onto a Jew versus a non-Jew, because he knows that if he grabs onto the Jew's going to make more noise.
So that's the explanation for mass anti-Semitism, right?
It's not true. I don't believe it. No, because there's a lot of irrational aspects to it. It's not a legitimate thing, because if a person was legitimately trying to do what's right, they would see both sides. They would see the positive that the Jews bring. They would see the negative the Jews bring, and they would make some type of calculation. And if you make a calculation, we brought way more good than we brought evil. Yeah. As a matter of fact, if you're on the internet right now, I promise you that something in your computer was made by Israel. If not, many of the parts of your computer were invented here in Israel, right? There's no such thing as a computer today. There's no such a thing as a computer. If you want to do BDS, you have to get rid of your phone. You have to get rid of your computer. You have to get rid of like almost anything that's going to actually benefit you, because don't go to the doctor, because there's an insane amount of medicine that was invented here in Israel. Right? So you're going to say, okay, and then you're going to find one Jew that did something stupid, and you're going to say, we're going to hate Jews. That's irrational. Doesn't make sense.
I agree with you. It's interesting. I was just talking about.
Anyways, can we get back to our demons over here?
Back to our demons, but I think, really, I mean, especially also for people listening, my understanding is, based off the Torah, and from being here more than a year, is like, what is the purpose of the Jewish people?
Yeah.
There's like two aspects to it. One is basically dira b'taktonim, to build a dwelling place for God in the lowest world. And then kind of under that higher order purpose, there's a second order purpose, which is equally as important, which is be a light to the other nations. Right?
They're intertwined. Those purposes are intertwined, because in order to make God a dwelling in this world, the people of this world need to be willing and understand and appreciate godliness. And
Yeah.
and that includes to the Gentile, to the non-Jews, because
So,
they're also
and then-
here.
and here comes
They're
the
also
part-
part of God's creation. They need to
Yeah, yeah.
recognize God as well.
So if you like, what is it to be a light to the other nations? If we're supposed to be mashpia on the other nations, well, first of all, the goyim are like the sun, we're like the moon. In some regards, the goyim are actually kind of the main creation of humanity.
Are
By
they?
the numbers they are.
Yeah, by the numbers.
By the numbers they are. And also, if our job is to be mashpia on them, and our job is to be a light to the other nations, and we're the priest class nation that's supposed to be an intermediary between the goyim and Hashem,
right?
then we have a job to do. And in a certain regard, one could actually say our job is to serve God, but also to serve the goyim in the certain respect that we're supposed to be morally and spiritually guiding them and revealing godliness to them,
100%.
right?
And
So-
as I said, we will do that. We Jews will reveal godliness to the nations, whether we like it or not. The very fact that we exist is in fact a proof that God exists, and they need to deal with that. And
Right.
that's also why very often people that hate Jews, by definition, hate the true creator of the world, because it's a hate. It's a refusal. It's a refusal to recognize and to accept the rule of God in this world. Yeah, it's that is what anti-Semitism really is. It is the ultimate rejection of the true God. That's what it is. Right now, in order to express that, how do they express that? Well, they express that by attacking the Jews.
Yeah.
Right? And by the way, the opposite is true. If a person appreciates Jews and is willing to realize that the Jewish people have been the conduit for God's blessing to the rest of the world, right? Then they, by definition, also love God. Otherwise, messed up. So,
Yeah.
anyways, let's get back to our Talmud stuff. We spoke a lot about stuff that has no relevance to their Talmud, but it may be relevant to other things. But yeah. Oh, we said yesterday that if you walk over a puddle of water, you could become susceptible to demonic attack. Okay? We said that if you wear shoes or if you're riding on a camel, then it protects you. However, we said that is only if you're protected from direct attack from a demon. However, if somebody puts a witchcraft spell on a person, then this, in fact, they could be attacked even if they are doing this, whatever we said yesterday. And here the Gemara is going to share a story. Bahu Gavra, there was a person, a man, the Rochiv Chamra, that was riding on a camel, a donkey. Visayim Misoni, and he even had shoes on, meaning he did both. He was riding on a camel and he had shoes on. The Gomud Misoni with Savu Kare. It says that his shoes shriveled up. Yeah, Bitsavu Kare. I'm not sure what that means because we don't have our Gemara to help me here with these difficult story. Oh, it says his feet dried up. His feet got dried up. Can you believe that? Not only did his shoes shrivel up, his feet inside the shoes shrivel up. That shows he was attacked, even though he was on a camel wearing shoes, apparently because it was witchcraft. All right, ready to continue? Let's continue. Tanu Rabbanon, the rabbis taught as follows: Shloisha, ein mimatzin, v'loy mismatzin. There's three things that you should not go in between, or they should not go in between you. Yeah, meaning both ways. Meaning there's two things that you should not go in between those two things. Sorry, there's three things that you should not walk between two of them, and you should not allow two of them, or you should not be with two of you with one in between. Again, there's three things that if they're one and one, you shouldn't go in between, right? And if you're one and one, which means there's two people, you shouldn't let that thing go in between you either. Again, you shouldn't go in between two of these things, and you shouldn't let one of these things go between two people. Now we're about to say it. Yeah? These are them. Akelev, a dog, the hadeko, and a palm tree, the ha'isha, and a woman.
Well,
Yeah, v'yesh oimrim, and there are those that say afa chazir, even a pig. V'yesh oimrim afa nachash, and those that say even a snake. Right. So again, this is actually a halacha. You'll find this in Shulchan Aruch that a man should not be walking between two women, and the same thing if there's two men, a woman should not walk between them either. Right. This is apparently something very dangerous that could make a person susceptible to witchcraft, to demons, etc. You got to be careful. And some people include a dog. Some people include a snake. No, sorry, a dog is included. We said the three are a dog, a palm tree, and a woman. Right? Some people add a pig and a snake. All right? Good? Good. The imamatzin, my takanti. Now ask the Gemara, what happens if for whatever reason you went between two women or one of these things? What could you do to fix this problem? Is there anything you can do to fix the problem? Let's find out.
grab your thumbs.
Omar Rapapa says, Niftach bekel v'nafsik bekel. You should say a verse that begins with the word kel, which is one of God's names, and you should end with a verse that also ends with that same name. In Rashbam, he actually found for you a verse that actually says that. It says, Kel mitziyim mitzrayim, kilei nachash Yaakov, etc. Mapal kel. There's basically a verse that you, in the newer Gemaras, they would actually have it quoted. In our Gemara, we don't have it quoted, but it does exist. Okay? Inami, or also, niftach beloy v'nafsik beloy. You should, or you can start with a verse that begins with loy, which means no, and that the verse also ends with a loy. And once again, the Rashbam will quote you various verses in the Torah that do this. So either say a verse that starts with kale and ends with kale, or what starts with loy and ends with loy. Yeah. Yeah. Now we're going to read one more, and then we're going to let you go. Okay. Hani beitrei, these two people, the matzalahu isha nida, that a woman who's a nida in her menstrual cycle walks between them. Im tchilas nidasahi, if it is the beginning of her menstrual cycle, hoireges echad mehem, one of them is going to die. Be careful about this.
Whoa.
That's what the Gemara says. You're going to tell me I never saw this happen, but be careful. The Gemara says, not necessarily. It says that's it. If a woman in the beginning of her menstrual cycle walks between two men, one of them's dead. That's it. It seems like one of the men are dead. Yeah. 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 It seems like one of the men are going to die. Im soifni dasa, if it's the end of her menstrual cycle, he meriva oisa b'neihem, she's going to cause these two people to begin to fight with each other.
Whoa.
Yeah. This is dangerous stuff. If it's the beginning of the cycle, dead. One of them's dead. If the end of the cycle is going to cause the two to fight. I have no idea. It does not explain what is the beginning, what's the end. But apparently these things can make people susceptible to demonic damage or witchcraft, etc. My takante, how do you fix this problem? What happens if this happened? Right? This woman walked between you and she's like, oh, babe, I just might have killed one of you. And you're like, what do we do? How do we fix this problem? Yeah, he says, niftach bekel, but nafsik bekel. You also should say the verse that begins with kel and ends with kel. Right? That's it.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah, so you should say this verse. That somehow breaks the spell. Hani trei noshe, these two women, which means if you ever see two women, the yosvon beproshes derachim, that they are sitting in the fork of a road. Chada b'hai gisa b'shvila, v'chada b'idach gisa, that each one is on one side of the road. They're standing next to the fork of the road, but each one's on the other side of the road, opposite side of the road. Umechavnon apayu lahadodi, and they're facing each other. Vadai bichshofim askinon, they're definitely witches doing witchcraft. That's what it says. If you ever see two women on either side of the road by the fork of the road and they're kind of like looking at each other, witchcraft, done.
By a fork in a road
Witchcraft.
on either side of the road.
Yeah.
What if
Looking
they're
at
just
looking
yelling
at each other. Looking at each other.
Mm.
If they're looking at each other, that's it. Witchcraft. My Takante asked the Gemara, what do you do if you see these two women? You see these women doing witchcraft. What do you do? So it says, if there is another path that you can go on, lazil bo, you should go in the other path. So this way they won't harm you. The ileika dircha acharina, if there is no other path, if there are other people with you, ninkutu lidayu b'hadei hadodi, v'nichlafu. They should pass through these two women when two people are in between them, meaning not one person at a time, right? So if there's somebody else there, grab the other person and walk together between these two women. The ileika inish acharina, if there isn't other people around, Neima Hachi. Yeah? This is what you should say. Agras Azlas Asya Blusya Miskatla Bechek Kibel Haiman the Poga. Oh, sorry, that's it. Bechek Kibel. Now, again, I read this before from the other thing. This is a more rare terminologies. Let's see what it says over here. Here what it says. It says in Rashbam, Agras Azla Usya Belusya. This means those demons that you are working with in your witchcraft, Miskatlin Bechei Kibel. They were already killed with the arrows. Yeah, they were already killed with the arrows. In other words, yeah.
That was really interesting stuff.
So apparently, you basically tell these witches, oh, yeah, maybe if they know that you know that they're witches, they get scared. Like those demons that you're playing around with, they're already dead.
How did you get from this into Pesachim? Where did this stuff?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Who this? I don't know.
That's oral timing.
Abracosis. Yes, very good.
Oh! Talmudist.
Super Talmudist.
Wow, what a community.
Good. Yeah. Good.
It's crazy how like sidetracked these guys get. The Gemara is really my conversation.
Huh?
Exactly what it is.
What's my conversations?
My personal.
Oh, I thought that was like a website or something. App. My conversations.
Yeah. It's a couple guys just sitting down and like having a podcast, like a Joe Rogan podcast.
No, you know what it... No, that's not really what it is.
You get intellectual. Joe Rogan would be talking about demonic possession.
Huh?
Tell me I'm wrong. Joe Rogan would talk.
He would talk about demonic possession.
He'd be like, "Oh, I actually heard this one time," and then say this. I'm telling you.
Good.
I've heard a podcast.
All right.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
You should ask Adam like our rendition of piece of
What?
Okay, so here's the question. At the beginning of this Daft, before we get into the Arba, the four reasons why your life can be taken if you do these things.
Yeah.
Immediately before that, we're talking about mixing if it's considered mixed, if you're mixing hot water into cold water or cold water into hot water, but it's not mixed if you mix hot water into hot water and cold water into cold water.
Right.
So, and then it immediately goes from that into the reasons why your life can be, you're opening yourself up.
First of all, the Talmud over here for the last 2 weeks already has been discussing various modes of demonic possession and attack, right? So we finished one concept and we moved on to the next. We finished telling you about the mixing the hot with the cold with the hot, and now we're going on to something else.
Okay, so it's not
Yeah.
necessarily related. Like it's saying going to the bathroom between a palm tree and a wall, or passing between two palm trees,
Yeah.
is somehow like spiritually related to mixing hot and cold water.
I think that they're related to the fact that these are actions that make a person susceptible to demonic attack.
Okay.
That
Not
is
necessarily
okay.
okay. I got
That is the common denominator between the two.
Gotcha.
Yeah, good. Mashiach. You ready for Mashiach? You ever heard about Mashiach?
I'm ready.
Also, some very powerful spiritual stuff. Good. So we're going to end for today. I'm here for another maybe 10, 20 minutes, and then I have to go to the doctor's appointment. So that's that. But I want to encourage you guys to learn. And I think that Yosef, maybe we'll learn together a little bit today. Huh? You and me for about 20 minutes. Good?
Thank
Good.
you, Rabbi.
And everybody online, thanks for joining us. Try to join us again. Bezrat Hashem. See you later. Sei gesund. Bye.